I've made it no secret that I'm not a fan of current superhero media, whether it be the comics or the movies. Granted, that's for different reasons. For comics, I feel as though they've become a bit more political nowadays, to the point you see a Trump version of MODOK and it makes me go, ugh! Or have a comic that completely follows a spoiled brat who may or may not be a self-insert of their author.
Dude, don't judge me!
And the films aren't that great either, and that's due to the few factors such as the oversaturation of the films. I had never even heard of the Eternals before the film came out, and Mobius... I attribute that to burnout more than anything else, really. Still, as a young kid living in America and having watched a ton of superhero cartoons like the original Justice League or Batman Beyond, I can't help but hold a place in my cold, dank heart for heroes. They're essentially our modern-day mythos. It's just a shame that the storytellers are two big hacks who But I want to be more positive on this channel, so I want to test the waters with you guys and talk about what I think is the best superhero media. Tiger and Bunny is a 2011 anime series produced by Sunrise with the creators of Keiichi Sato and Masayuki Ozaki, and it's probably one of the most down-to-earth superhero stories that you'll ever see in your life. And recently, Netflix released a second season of the series. Granted, I have issue with them removing the advertising from the heroes since that's part of the point, but today I want to talk about the first one since, well, it's been 11 years since it came out. And considering that people seem to like it when I talk about anime that's well over 10 years old at this point, I figured why not spice it up a little and branch out a touch. I think it's important to be more positive on this channel, and why not? I'm MangaKamen, and let's begin. Although this isn't really important, I think we should talk about the surprisingly weird inspiration for the show, the Beijing Olympics. Back in the day, there was a bit of a controversy over competition swimsuits. Basically, there was a particular kind of swimsuit that was designed to help set a new world record in speed, but the athletes who had contracts with Japanese companies couldn't wear that type of swimsuit. The idea from that was to depict, and to quote producer Ozaki, conflict and drama one sees when they belong to an organization for a while. This is something that we see a lot in real life, even though a lot of us don't realize it. Hell, even YouTubers like that have that issue. Brand deals and sponsors. When you take a sponsorship from people, you're signing up for a contract and you're representing the company that you're with. Hell, if you're working for a large company like, say, FedEx or Little Caesars, you represent them while you're working for them. And anything you do can actively hurt the company. It's part of the reason why when you watch Tiger and Bunny, the non-Netflix version, you'll see their superhero forms have names of fictional and non-fictional brand names. It's why you see the cute anime girl drinking a Pepsi, and while they're heroes, they're also spokesmen for the products. It's product placement that makes actual sense in the world and isn't just in your face, because it's also serving a purpose. When the series is being made, the usage of logos was thought ahead to make sense to English regions, including Viz Media. The idea and characters for the show are actually rather non-traditional too for anime standards. Take the main character Kotetsu Kaburagi, aka Wild Tiger, for example. He's in his mid-30s, about to turn 40 in the second season, and he's a father. A single father. Most of the time when you've got anime, the male leads tend to be in the more younger side, mostly teenagers or early 20s. That's mostly because a lot of anime is targeted towards younger demographics, since teens tend to be the biggest consumers for anime. Granted, that demographic was aged up and is still watching anime, but what do I know? I'm just a weeb! But Kotetsu is an odd protagonist to be sure, and yet I find him to be one of the most interesting protagonists in media. A single father who's trying to fulfill his dream and the will of his... Oh, right, I gotta save that for later in the video. Yeah, I'm going to be spoiling a little bit in this series, so if you want a recommendation for the series, go watch it. Try to watch it anywhere other than Netflix, because I don't support Netflix anymore and they removed the branding from the characters, so it actively hurts the show, since the branding was part of the point. Welcome to Sternbuild City, a reimagined version of New York City where 45 years before the start of our story, superpowered beings known as the Next, noted entities with extraordinary talents, started to show up in the world and started to become superheroes to defend the city from crime, all the while being very entertaining television. Eventually, these heroes began to get sponsors, and even then, Hero TV was created by Albert Maverick as a means to make the Next more accepted in society by turning them into heroes. The current group of heroes on Hero TV include Antonio Lopez, known as Rock Bison, an older man with the power to harden his skin. Karina Lyle, Blue Rose, a young idol with the power to control and manipulate ice. Ivan Karolin. Origami Cyclone, a young man who hides in the background who is a shapeshifter. Keith Goodman. Sky High, the best hero at the start of the series who possesses the ability to create strong gusts of wind on command. Nathan Seymour. Fire Emblem, a fiery soul who's as strong as a man and gentle as a woman with the power of fire creation. Also, I know some people are going to get mad if I don't bring this up, he is openly gay in the series.
You sure you don't want some company tonight?
Thanks, but you're not exactly my type. You're too tall.
Paolin, Dragon Kid, the lightning generator martial artist. And finally, Kotetsu Kaburagi, Wild Tiger, the crusher of justice who has the ability to multiply his physical abilities by 100 for 5 minutes. After the King of Heroes, aka the best hero for the season, is crowned, a new hero is introduced who earlier that evening actually saved Wild Tiger, Barnaby Brooks Jr., a hero who has the same power as that of Wild Tiger. The only difference? He's younger than Kotetsu, and unlike the other heroes who hide their faces and identities, he gladly removes his mask to show his pretty face. So not only is Kotetsu falling behind in the ranks of heroes, but this new guy shows him up, and has his powers. To make things worse, Kotetsu is now Barnaby's sidekick. Not even kidding. The series then follows the two as they bicker and argue with each other, slowly getting closer as partners and eventually friends. All the while, Barnaby begins to see Kotetsu as more than just a washed-up old fart. The anime has this old-school buddy cop drama feel to it. You know the drill at this point. It's essentially a more dramatic and action-packed version of The Odd Couple. One is a straight-laced stickler and the other is a loose cannon, and they often clash against each other but ultimately complement each other. Granted, I wouldn't say Kotetsu and Barnaby are one for one for that description, but...
I'll suit yourself, little bunny. I'm out of here. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold it. What?
What did you call me? Did you just call me Bunny? Yeah, why not? You got those long pink ears and you're always hopping around. You're just like a cute little bunny.
I am not a bunny. My name is Barnaby.
I am not a bunny. I'm a Barnaby.
I don't talk like that.
Kotetsu can be such a lovable dick. This is the man who I strive to become. But yeah, essentially the series is a buddy cop show, only replace the cops with superheroes who are being sponsored by advertisements and include superpowers. Now you may be thinking, but Kamen, how does that make the story better? Well, here's the thing. You're taking what is essentially two different genres, superhero and buddy cop drama, and taking the best from both worlds and mixing them together. Not only that, but it also does something that was relatively fresh to the idea of superheroes at the time. You see, you need to consider the time frame in which the show came out. It came out in April 2011. Meanwhile, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is only just starting. The latest film being Iron Man 2, and Thor came out during the show's initial run. So we didn't have the whole Avenger thing going on at the time, at least in the cinematic style, but just the basis of it. And while the concept of having heroes hanging out isn't anything new, especially if you look towards comics and cartoons, it's still a concept that I do appreciate and can really humanize the characters in the process. Throw in the fact that we have two opposing main characters who play off each other, and you got yourself a recipe for intrigue. It's like watching oil and water mixed in a glass. As the story continues, we'll slowly see Barnaby open up to Kotetsu, because despite his misgivings with the new guy, Kotetsu is a good person at heart and generally does care for his fellow heroes. It's why in episode 5, when it's Barnaby's birthday, Kotetsu gets the other heroes to help him out with a fake crime so they can throw Barnaby a surprise birthday party. Of course, things go wrong when real criminals show up, with Barnaby scolding Kotetsu for meddling in his life, and when things seem to be getting worse...
Tiger and Barnaby, over and out.
They learn they are actually pretty good compliments to each other. And of course, there's a moment that I really do like with this.
I'll give you the arrest. After all, I know how much you love points. Happy birthday. Is that so?
Hey, why are you smiling?
I'm not smiling.
It really shows the crack in the armor for Barnaby, that even though he was mad at Kotetsu, that even a small gesture managed to be at the very least touch Barnaby's wounded heart. It's that kind of writing that can really appreciate any form of media, especially watching when walls can slowly come down. Granted, there's a more serious and mainline plot to the show, and obviously I can't go over everything in this video since I don't want to spoil the entire series and want you guys to watch it. But let's talk about it a little. The main plot for the first and second half of the first season revolves around Barnaby, who's in a quest to get revenge for his murdered parents. Two robotics experts who were killed on the holidays. The only clue that Barnaby has is his own fuzzy memories and a tattoo of the Ouroboros on the killer's hand. Luckily, the culprits aren't immortal homunculi, but a shadowy organization of criminals known as Ouroboros, heroes, who to this day, even in Season 2, haven't really gotten a lot of backstory to them. But Barnaby searches for information for the murderer and Kotetsu helps him. That's about most I can talk about without going into real big spoilers, but that's the main story. On the surface, it's standard fare. However, the reason that the story is so good is because of the characters and their interactions with each other throughout it. It's really the characters that can make this story work really well. Each of the heroes have their own distinct personalities, character traits, and can be clearly remembered after you watch the show, which is helped by the fact that there are dedicated episodes to most of the heroes that flesh them out a bit more as characters, some more than others, I will admit though. And with these episodes, we're not only getting to see more and more of Kotetsu's father energy kick into gear, which not only allows Barnaby to see more of Kotetsu's true merit as a hero, we'll also see that he can inspire others to achieve what they can. Because superheroes or not, these are still people who are being paid by sponsors. Tiger and Bunny takes this to the logical conclusion and will often have the heroes have their own everyday issues, and will tie into their jobs. Like I said, not all the heroes get this level of development, but a good number of them do so throughout the first season. So let's take a look at a couple of examples with Blue Rose Karina and Origami Cyclone Ivan. Why these two? Well, aside from Kotetsu, I just really like them and I think they're the strongest examples, as well as showing two different types of reasons why people became heroes. Let's start with Karina, who only became a hero because she wanted to have a singing career, and while she's no slouch at being a hero, she basically sees it as nothing more than a stepping stone to actually become a famous singer. Of course, when this happens, she doesn't pay full attention and almost gets herself hurt. It's at this point that Kotetsu steps in, showing up at one of her shows. Kotetsu questions Karina if she even has the ambition to be a hero, because her attitude towards the heroes up to that point was rather unfriendly and competitive. Hell, it's even questionable if she even likes to help save people. It's telling when you consider that one of her moves is basically her taking a page from Joseph Joestar to run away. Then again, when you're forced to dress like she does for superhero work, it's something that can drain your motivation quickly. It's akin to younger celebrities who want to do something different with their lives, but their content has already been set, and if they just get away from it, they're gonna be burned away. It isn't until Kotetsu tells her that she should do what she loves and sees when the rest of the heroes are giving their all to save people that she takes her hero work more seriously, and says that she intends to be a hero because she wants to save people, inspired by Kotetsu's dedication to being a hero, and became one of the more competent crime fighters in the show afterwards. Now we get to Ivan. Now, after the appearance of a more deadly next criminal named Lunatic, who kills criminals instead of shuffling them into the court system, the reputation of the heroes was going down during the series. So, as an attempt to boost the hero image, the heroes go and do charity work. Kotetsu, Barnaby, and Ivan all go make an appearance at the Hero Academy to encourage the next students. One thing to note about Ivan is that up to this point, he wasn't one of the better heroes. Hell, he might have been one of the worst, since most of the time he was mostly just acting as glorified billboards for sponsors, since Ivan had these confidence issues. He thinks his shape-shifting abilities is useless as a hero since he can copy other people but can't copy their powers and abilities. This lack of confidence also stems from an incident where one of Ivan's school friends tried to use his powers to stop a crime, but accidentally killed a hostage and went to jail for it. Ivan was with him at the time, but didn't do anything, and his inaction, at least in his eyes, is what caused his friend to make a mistake. To make matters worse, he took the hero spot that his friend was going to get. That friend was said to become a great hero, but with him out of the way, Ivan took the hero spot and has this underlying guilt ever since. When his friend breaks out of jail and attempts to get revenge, Ivan says he's fine to let his friend kill him. Thankfully, Kotetsu and Barnaby are there to save him, but Ivan was still dealing with a lot of self-confidence issues. Of course, Kotetsu helps him through this, and when Ivan's friend is about to be killed by Lunatic, Ivan steps in to take the bullet and save his friend. Up is because the first season does a lot to help flesh out the characters. While there are characters who do get more development than others, each of the characters are expanded upon, and I have to say, for 25 episodes, it does a good job at the very least giving each of the heroes their own establishing traits. And if you have to ask why that's a good thing, well, fine, I guess I'll explain. Because you can actually see that these characters are human. You can relate to them even though their situations have a bit more fantastical reach to them. For the case of Karina, she's doing something that she initially hated just to fulfill her dream, doing stuff that she hates in order to supplement her ideal. How many of us have had to take a job where we outright hated and do things that crushed our spirits, but had to do in order to make sure we could at least attempt our dreams? Or for Ivan, how many of us have betrayed a friend and did something that, while we didn't hurt us specifically, hurt our friends in the process? either out of mistake or because we were scared. They're relatable, and while I doubt I have a shapeshifter or an ice queen in my audience, I'm sure you guys can find a character in the show that you can find relatable, which is something that you need to do for your characters with your audience if they're good or bad people. If you can find something to latch onto a character or cast, then you've got the marks of a memorable show that can pull people into it. Of course, I want to talk about the best character in the show and what I think makes the show great. Obviously, I like most of the characters in the show, but the one that stands above them all is Kotetsu himself. A man who has two goals in life, to be a great hero and to have his daughter think he's cool. He's a veteran hero and some may say he's past his prime, but that what makes him all the more admirable in my eyes. Yeah, I know, he's got simple goals, but seeing a man like him trying to fulfill both of his dreams that do conflict with each other in a sense, you can't help but cheer for the guy, especially since he's trying to be the best a hero can be and inspiration for others, including his fellow heroes. It all stemmed from an encounter with one of the most famous heroes in the series, Mr. Legend, where the old hero told Kotetsu that he too can be a hero, and those words stuck with him. As a little kid, Kotetsu was ashamed of his powers as a next, but with those words from Mr. Legend, Kotetsu accepted his strengths and wanted to use them to help people. Of course, you still gotta pay the bills, so Hero TV, we come! Kotetsu's role in the story is actually fairly different from what you'd see from typical anime protagonists, especially nowadays since a lot of anime protagonists tend to be on the younger side. He's a veteran and mentor character. Sure, he's a bit of a goofball and he doesn't think things through all the time, but it's obvious that his experience in the field of superheroing is very valuable and it obviously helps tons of people, including the other heroes. Kotetsu is what you'd call a crouching dumbass, hidden badass. Basically, while he has these goofier moments, he also has his kick-ass moments as well, and those types of characters are always very entertaining to watch. I had to explain why this is a good thing though, because apparently there are people who don't understand why this makes him a compelling character. It's because that despite his flaws, Kotetsu is a great person, even when he's willing to hurt himself in the long run to help others. He'll do it, and even though he's a veteran, that doesn't mean he doesn't have his flaws. One of his greatest flaws is that he himself is human and a hero. He doesn't want to be the cause of grief for people and would rather protect them from the pain, even at the cost of himself. Even if he has to look like an idiot at times. Hell, in the manga one-shot, Kotetsu runs late to work claiming that he had a hangover, when in actuality he was helping a woman get to a hospital. It's something that Kotetsu does so that people don't have to worry about him, and unfortunately, this does hurt him in the long run. Later in the series, Kotetsu's powers begin to decline in time length, and he begins to consider retirement. To make things more frantic, his daughter is developing her own next powers, so things are getting hard. And on top things off, Barnaby is questioning his memory of the day that his parents died, and the culprit who he thought was responsible may not have been the person who actually took his parents' lives. At that point in the series, Barnaby had already grew to trust Kotetsu and rely on him as a partner. So when Barnaby overhears Kotetsu talking with his family about retiring, it deeply hurts Barnaby that someone that he greatly trusted was going to leave his life. That kind of character drama is something that is amazing and interesting, as throughout the series, not only does Barnaby see Kotetsu helping the other heroes, but that Kotetsu is even willing to help him despite how different the two are, and how they were basically at each other's throats at the beginning. It's a great character beat, and one I'll happily watch develop again and again. Kotetsu isn't perfect, and that's what makes him one of the best protagonists. He has goals, even if they can be goofy or really down to earth. He's got a big heart, and deeply cares for the people in his life. And he also has a twinge of tragedy. When his wife was sick in the hospital, Kotetsu wanted to shirk his duties as a hero because he didn't want to leave his wife's side. His wife knows how important Kotetsu's job is, and that there's a chance that someone's life could be saved if he goes. And to be fair, yeah, he did save someone's life, but his wife's faded away while he was gone. And ever since, Kotetsu lived by his wife's words for him to continue being a hero. Maybe it's me because I understand in retrospect that losing someone you care about, when you can't even say goodbye to them because you had other responsibilities, that it's a terrible experience. And nowadays, I have a similar mindset to making sure those that I consider friends are okay. I try to get a little more personal when it comes to these videos that I want to talk about positive stuff with. Shows that I hold a deep respect in media and question, as well as how it applies to me as a person. Because when you can find a character or a piece of media that connects with you, that's when you know you found something really good. Like, to me, the mixture of the superhero elements with the mundane problems is something that I think can do really well to appeal to a wide range of people. It's the one of the elements that I think makes a show in this genre work really well, the blend, because while Kotetsu is a hero, he's got problems that people can relate to. Even if they're mundane issues like trying to be a good father, or the more superhero version of losing your powers being akin to getting older and not being as good as you once were, I think that sort of relatability is what makes for engagement with media really great. That you can see a bit of yourself within the characters and that you're reading about it. It makes it all the more engaging. And that's why I think Kotetsu is one of the best main characters in anime. Maybe it's because the show itself was aimed at an older audience in mind, as well as an international audience as well. It's why the characters are not only diverse racially, but also personality-wise. Not to say their identities mark their personalities or anything, but I feel like this is a lovable cast filled with several different people with different backgrounds and experiences, and I love that. The biggest aspect and theme of Tiger and Bunny is about trust. Trust between those you work with, the trust between family, and the trust between your partner. The bond between Kotetsu and Barnaby being the key highlight of trust, in which it was hard for both Kotetsu and Barnaby to trust each other at the start. Kotetsu thought Barnaby was a spoiled brat, and Barnaby thought Kotetsu was a washed-up has-been who was getting in his way. The two had different views on what a hero should look like, with Barnaby being more on the points to climb up the hero ranks as well as being a stickler for the rules. Meanwhile, Kotetsu has experience, follows his heart with decisions, and can be a bit reckless. These are two people who should get on each other's nerves, and they do at the start, even to the point where it hinders their hero work. Really, it starts to get to a head in the city is under siege from a dangerous next named Jake, the man that Barnaby believes killed his parents, and will sink the city with an army of mechs that are controlled by possessed teddy bears. Yeah, really. Due to Jake's ability to produce force fields, as well as a second hidden ability that allows him to read minds, he manages to defeat a good portion of the heroes, including Kotetsu. Before this happened though, when Barnaby would try to charge in to get Jake, Kotetsu interrupted and accidentally allowed Jake to escape. This caused Barnaby to lose trust in Kotetsu, but when Barnaby fights Jake alone, Kotetsu gives Barnaby a special grenade to counter Jake's super hearing. Yeah, you heard what I said, that's what Kotetsu says he has.
He was listening to the sound of our muscles moving so he could predict our next move.
But as it turns out, Kotetsu knew exactly what he was doing, and the grenade was a flashbang, blinding Jake and allowing Barnaby to take down Jake. Then we get my favorite scene in the show.
Listening to the sound of our muscles? You're telling me that's the best stuff you could come up with? Your whole plan hinged on me buying that? I mean, what if I hadn't believed you, old man?
I was sure that wouldn't happen.
Excuse me?
To be perfectly honest, I was never the least bit worried about that. I believed you'd trust me.
It's not flashy, but it's got a real good impact to it, and really touched my heart after seeing the hardships that these two characters went through, and how the bond they had was tested. It was that moment that I fell in love with Tiger and Bunny. Heroes come in varying shapes, sizes, and ways. Hell, I barely touched on the series' death for the motives or the second season, but to me, this is what a hero's story should be about. Yes, it has its dark moments, but it has its moments of levity, and at the end of the day, it has its own charm with characters that I adore. Hell, if this wasn't a test for a new editor, I'd gladly double the length of this video. I'd love to talk about the series more in the future, so if you guys managed to get this point of the video, please put in the comments, "I am not a bunny!" If this video gets enough traction, I'd love to talk more about the series. I'm MangaKamen, and thanks for watching. Have a nice day.